Good morning, my dear students. I welcome you to the National University online class. During this pandemic, I feel proud to be the part of this National University online class lecture as a resource person. Please maintain the health rules. Our subject is English. Program name is BA Honors first year. Course code 211101. Name of our course, English Reading Skills. And today's lecture number is 5. The title of today's lecture is Reading Comprehension Passages Part A with sample questions and answers. And here I am Khandagar Mushir Rahman, Assistant Professor, Department of English, Gaibandha Government College, Gaibandha. I hope you all are fine today. And of course, you have attended the previous lectures by this time. And today we are going to recap the last class. Lecture number 4. What we learned in our last class, previous class. Can you recall? As I told you, recapping. Recapping means recalling the last class. What we have learned, try to just review. Try to share. In the last class, we tried to learn about, transformation. Vocabulary is part of transformations. Some peculiarities in voice chains and some exceptions of voice chains. We also learned about how to improve our vocabulary. I suggested you some tips to improve your vocabulary. Can you remember now? I think if you have attended the class, you can now recall that the important steps, what you have to do to improve your, vocabulary. 14 steps I suggested. So I would like to say that you must follow those steps to improve your vocabulary. If you cannot enrich your vocabulary, you will not feel comfort to read English. The problem our students face, that is when they read English, they can't understand. That's why they leave it, keep the book aside, especially the English newspaper. So to remove your hesitation, to remove your English phobia, you must improve your vocabulary. That's why you must follow the last lecture. Now today's topic, look at today's topic. Checking the previous home task. Yes, can you remember what I gave you to do as home task? I told you to read some texts and pick up some words and try to know the derivatives, synonym, antonyms of those words to improve your vocabulary. And I also told you to find out at least 10 pairs of homophones from your dictionary and try to make sentence with them. Have you done it? If you have not, must try to do that. If you have done, you are welcome. Okay? Now today actually we are going to do this important part of our syllabus, you see, Reading Comprehension Passage Part A. Actually, I am going to introduce you with the question paper today, the first part of our question paper, writing answers to some sample questions. What type of questions come over there for brief answer question in Part A in our exam paper? That I will try to show you, and you will do it along with me. Just a practice work, and the class will be ended up with a home task. So get ready with pen and paper. I'll show you the story here. So this is the story, 2 slides, so you will read the story. But before we are going to read the story, just take down the question answer first. Answer the following questions in brief. This is one item of question in our exam paper in Part A. After reading a comprehension passage, you have to write brief answer questions. There will be 12 out of 12 questions. You have to answer 10 altogether, including grammatical items also. So this is one item of our question paper. Writing the answer in brief, at least one complete sentence, 2 or 3, not so many sentences here you should write. First take down the question, write down in your exercise book. Because when we will read the story, we will not be able to see the question. So write down it quickly, just take some, at least 1 minute. Write down. First question, who was Eugene Boden? Second question, how was Monet's portrayal of nature different from the other artists of his time? What do you mean by Impressionism? Why did Monet use thick brush strokes for painting? What do you understand by a player? So these are the brief answer questions. After reading the passage, you have to write these question answers. Now let's see the passage. This is the beginning of the story. Read the passage carefully. First, you will read yourself silently. I'll give you 3 minutes to read this page. Try to finish reading the first page of the story in 3 minutes. You are taking silent reading, of course. While reading, try to remember important dates, events, name, and if you find any difficult word, unknown word, you should pick it up and write it down in your exercise book. That will help you to write the answer later on. So actually you are taking intensive reading. Can you remember we talked about skimming, scanning, intensive reading and extensive reading? Now you are actually doing intensive reading because you need to understand every details of the story so that because you have to write some answers of the questions. Try to finish. More 30 seconds to go for this page. So time is up for this page. Look at the last part of the story. Take another 2.5 minutes to finish this page. After you reading, I will read once for you. Then I'll ask you to write the answers. So read quickly because I will read once for you. This is actually learning by doing. You are practically doing the comprehension story. And you have to practice at home in this way, as I am teaching you. Have you done? Or 30 seconds to go. Okay, your time is up. I will read for you once, then I'll ask you to write the question answer, okay? Now look at this story again. Claude Monet, a 19th century French painter, was the most famous artist associated with the movement known as Impressionism. So try to get the meaning. Claude Monet, this French name, that's why the sound is like that, but Monet, it's Monet. Claude Monet, a 19th century French painter. 19th century means, 100 year. It starts from 1801 to 1900. Was the most famous artist who was associated with, concerned with, related with the movement, related with the movement known as Impressionism. Impressionism is a movement, means it's a style in painting, a special style of painting that is written over here. What type of painting is it? Impressionism. They used to work on the reflection of light on objects. What is the reflection of light on objects? That's a new style in painting. It was started in this 19th century, and Claude Monet was associated with this movement. Monet was born on 14 November 1840, and even as a young man, he was known for producing small portraits in charcoal. Portraits? Portraits means drawings or paintings. Charcoal means one kind of coal. It's, I mean, hard black coal that is made of wood. After burning the wood, that is the charcoal, is used as fuel. In 1858, Monet met the artist Eugene Boudin, who became his mentor and introduced Monet to painting outdoors. So in 1858, Monet met the artist Eugene Boudin, and this Eugene Boudin became his mentor. Mentor means an experienced person, more experienced person who suggests or helps less experienced person. That is mentor. So Eugene Boudin, an experienced artist, became the mentor of Monet, Claude Monet. And Boudin introduced Monet to painting outdoors. The other word for painting outdoors is in French, art player. Art player is a French phrase. It means painting outdoors. As it came to be known, so it was known as art player, the painting outdoors. It was introduced to Monet by Eugene Boudin. Most artists of his time tried to imitate nature realistically, but in his landscape painting, Monet instead sought to portray nature as it appeared to him. Have you got the meaning? Most artists of his time tried to imitate nature, tried to imitate means copy nature realistically as nature was. But in his landscape, that means in his paintings, when he's painting landscape means all the visual features of a land that you can see in the open field, whatever you can see if you look at the open field, under open sky, the trees, woods, land, everything is includes in landscape. So, but in Monet's landscape painting, Monet instead of copying the nature realistically, he tried to portray nature as it appeared to him. That means as Monet realized nature, as he perceived nature, according to his own perception, own realization, he tried to portray the nature in his paintings, landscape paintings. In particular, he was interested in how light affects the ways that we perceive color. Here is the actual meaning here, actually, what he tried to do. Monet tried to portray nature as it appeared to him means he was interested in how light affects. That means what was the reflection of light on objects. He tried to show the reflection of light on objects through his paintings. In one of his most famous series of works, Monet painted the cathedral in Rouen, France at several different times of day, showing how changes in natural light make the cathedral appear to change color. So it is his famous work. He painted the cathedral in Rouen, France. It's a famous cathedral at several times of day. That means in the morning, at noon or afternoon, at different times, how the cathedral looked because of the sunlight. the reflection of the sunlight. Because of the reflection of sunlight, the cathedral look different colors, the reflected different colors in different times of the day. He tried to show that in his paintings. This part of the story. In 1883, Monet moved from Paris to a small French town called Giverny, where he built an elaborate garden. Elaborate means, you know the word elaborate? Elaborate means well prepared and organized. Carefully prepared and well organized garden. This garden in particular, its water lily ponds became the chief subject of Monet's later paintings, water lilies. Monet's paintings of water lilies were extremely influential to 20th century modern artists. That means the following artists of 20th century were very much influenced by the paintings of water lilies of Monet. In these paintings, Monet used the landscape merely as a starting point, creating abstract fields of vibrant color. Abstract means, you know, abstract now. Over there, you learn the meaning of abstract. That has no physical shape. It is in intellectual level, means idea, thinking level, thought. So intellectual may be the synonym of abstract. Creating abstract fields of vibrant means very strong, bright, vigorous color. These paintings depended on broad, thick brush strokes. The brush Monet used with thick brush strokes for painting. Why? Because the texture of these thick brush strokes gave the canvases a tactile quality. Texture means surface of these brush strokes gave the canvases a tactile quality. Tactile means rough quality that contrasted sharply with the smooth canvases produced by more traditional artists. So this is another difference of Monet with other artists of his time. Most of the artists of his time tried to portray their canvas, smooth canvas. They produced smooth canvas, but because of the texture of brush strokes of Monet's, canvases are tactile. Tactile means rough quality. That's why he's different from other painters. Though he struggled financially throughout his life, when Monet died in 1926, he was one of the most famous and influential painters in the world. I think you have got the meaning of the story. Now try to answer those questions that you have written down in your exercise book. I'll show you the story first page and second page, time to time, but try to finish the answer at this 2 minutes, not more than that, 2 minutes. I'm showing you the question again. Who was using Boden? Remember, you have to write full sentence, not incomplete sentence or phrase. Even it is one sentence, that should be complete sentence. How was Monet's portrayal of nature different from the other artists of his time? What do you mean by Impressionism? Why did Monet use thick brush strokes for painting? What do you understand by art player? So you're supposed to write this answer very quickly. Okay, if you have done, check your one. Check your answers, match your answers with the following. Eugene Boden was an artist and the mentor of Claude Monet. He introduced Monet to painting outdoors. So remember it, when you are writing the answer, you should not copy the exact sentence from the comprehension passage. You should make your own sentence to write the answer. Eugene Boden was an artist. If you write up to this, that will also do, but you should try to give the full information, complete information. Eugene Boden was an artist and the mentor of Claude Monet. I have added another sentence here. He introduced Monet to painting outdoors. So these are the sentences that is not exactly written in the comprehension story. You should not copy directly from the comprehension story. You can get the information, you can take the words from the story or passage, but you should not write the same sentence from the story. Look at the second question. How was Monet's portrayal of nature different from the other artists of his time? The answer is, Monet's portrayal of nature was different from the other artists of his time because Monet used to portray nature as it appeared to him, but the other artists of his time portrayed nature realistically, as nature was. They tried to nature it was. They did not reflect their own thoughts and ideas in their paintings. But here, I mean, in case of Monet, he tried to portray nature as it appeared to him, as he himself realized. According to his own realization or perception, he tried to produce the nature in his paintings. That's why he was different from others. Question number 3, what do you mean by impressionism? Look at the answer. The word impressionism refers to a style in painting that uses color to show the effects of light on things and to suggest atmosphere rather than showing exact details. Actually, this is the style of Claude Monet. So, refers to means impressionism means a style in painting. What type of painting? That uses color to show the effects of light on things, I mean objects, the effects of light on things, and to suggest atmosphere that is perceived by the painter rather than showing exact details, rather than showing the exact nature. Question number, I think you have understood. Question number 4. Why did Monet use thick brush strokes for painting? That is another specialty of Monet. Monet used thick brush strokes because the texture of these brush strokes gave the canvases a tactile quality. To give a tactile quality, rough quality to his paintings, he used thick brush strokes. I think you could write the answer. Number 5, the last one. What do you understand by a player? This is a French phrase, a player. In the story, you got the answer. A player, this is a player, outdoor, painting outdoors. Have you got the answer? Painting outdoors? Yes. So the answer is, the French phrase art player means the act of painting outdoors, the act of painting outdoors. This is one item, brief answer question. There is another item of our question paper, that is, write down the meaning of the words in English and make your own sentences with them. In this case also, you should not copy sentence from the passage. You have to write your own sentence. Here are some words: abstract, texture, vibrant. Write down quickly the meaning of these words. Elaborate, contrast, mentor, landscape. Actually, this is the language class, you know, learning by doing. You have to do your work. Otherwise, you cannot learn. Write down quickly the meaning of these words and try to make sentence. Of course, I'll show you the answers, but try to do your one first, 1 minute time. Reading the passage, I already told you the meaning: abstract, texture, vibrant, elaborate, contrast, mentor, landscape. If you want to take help from the passage to guess the meaning: mentor, landscape, elaborate, abstract, texture, and tactile. So your time is up now. Look at the answers. Check your answers. Abstract means existing in thought, not having physical reality. I mean intellectual, maybe the synonym word for abstract. And I have given a sentence over here. You might write your own sentence, I mean different sentence, of course. The poem is written on abstract concepts. Have you got it? The poem is written on abstract concepts. Texture means surface. Texture means surface. The texture of velvet is very soft. In the exam paper, you have to write like this. You have to copy the word, then write the meaning, and below the meaning, you should write your own sentence. Texture means surface. The texture of velvet is very soft. Velvet is one kind of cloth. Vibrant means very bright and strong, vigorous. The room was decorated in vibrant colors. The room was decorated in vibrant colors. Elaborate means carefully prepared and organized. She had prepared a very elaborate meal. She had prepared a very elaborate meal. Contrast, the word, I think you know the meaning, dissimilarity. Contrast means dissimilarity. There is an obvious contrast between the cultures of East and West. Of course, you might write another sentence, no problem. Mentor means an experienced person who helps and advises a less experienced person. I told you the meaning. Eugene Boudin was mentor of Claude Monet, an experienced person who helps and advises a less experienced person. Here sentence is, he followed his mentor's advices properly. Landscape means all the visible features of an area of land. Landscape means all the visible features of an area of land that you can see at a glance. Look at the sentence. The woods and fields are the typical features of the English landscape. The woods and fields are the typical features of English landscape. That means in England, if you look at the countryside under the open sky, you usually see the woods and fields. That's why the woods and fields are the typical features of the English landscape. You might write, of course, another sentence of your own, no problem. Now look at another type of sentence, another type of questions in our exam paper. This is another type. Choose the right answers. I mean, multiple choice answer questions. Here would be the options. You have to choose the right options. Look at number 1 here. The highlighted word perceive is not synonymous with. You have to look at the question very keenly, attentively, because here you see the question is not synonymous with perceive. Which word is not synonym? Which word is not the synonym of perceive? That you have to find out here. You should not find a synonym. So perceive means to realize, to understand. Now which one does not match with this meaning? Sense, overlook, comprehend, discern. So you have to give the tick mark. Which one is right? Do it quickly. Number 2, based on information in the passage, it can be inferred that the phrase a tactile quality suggests that Monet's canvases were colorful, beautiful, smooth, rough. Give tick mark. The word imitate used in the text could be best replaced by, that means you have to find out synonym over here. The word imitate used in the text could be best replaced by reproduce, repeat, mimic, resemble. Imitate means, to copy. So find out the right option. Number 4, Monet used in his paintings landscape, vibrant color, traditional art. Choose the right option. Number 5, the chief subject of Monet's later paintings was fields, woods, water lilies. So do it. The time is over actually. You are just to put tick marks here. Now look at, match your answers. Check your answers. The highlighted word perceive is not synonymous with overlook. Perceive means to realize, to understand. Sense means to gaze, very similar to perceive. Comprehend means to understand. That is similar to perceive, synonym to perceive. And discern means also to understand, to realize. So that is also synonymous to perceive. But overlook, to avoid, that is not synonymous. This is the answer. Number 2, based on information in the passage, it can be inferred, it can be concluded, it can be decided that the phrase a tactile quality suggests that Monet's canvases were colorful, beautiful, smooth, or rough. I think you have got the right answer, rough. Yes. The word imitate used in the text could be best replaced by reproduce, repeat, mimic, resembles. It's reproduce, to produce something again, looking at something, imitate. So Monet used in his paintings landscape, vibrant color, and traditional art. The answer is landscape. You see the red marks are the right answer. Red mark one of the right answers. So you can guess how many you have done correct and how many you have done wrong. The chief subject of Monet's later paintings was water lilies. I think we have done most of the answers correct here. Is it? Now we will see another item of our question paper, that is, we already practiced about transformation. That is an essential part of our question in part A for 1 mark answer questions. There will be some transformational sentences from the passage and you have to transform it as directed, according to the direction. So look at this. Claude Monet, a 19th century French painter, was the most famous artist associated with the movement known as Impressionism. We have to make it complex. So change the following sentence as directed. You have to make it complex. Now, though the sentence looks large, long, you should not be panicked because you should look for the verbs. If there is only one main verb, this is a simple sentence. To make it complex, what you have to do? You have to make a subordinate clause. Complex sentence means the basic things I told you. Can you recall from the 3rd lecture? Complex means what? Complex means one main clause, one subordinate clause. So you have to make it complex. That means you have to make a subordinate clause here. So try to do it. You have to make a subordinate clause. Claude Monet, a 19th century French painter, was the most famous artist associated with the movement known as Impressionism. Here is the main verb only was. This is the main clause. Claude Monet was the most famous artist associated with the movement known as Impressionism. So this is only one main clause. That's why this is a simple sentence. You have to make it complex. But look at this one. A 19th century French painter. This is a phrase. From this phrase, you have to make a subordinate clause. I'm giving you a clue. Try to do it. Next, question number 2, sentence number 2. We have to make it compound. Now try to see what type of sentence it is. The texture of these brush strokes gave the canvases a tactile quality that contrasted sharply with the smooth canvases produced by more traditional artists. So you see that clause is here. So this is complex sentence. We have to make it compound. So this that clause, this is subordinate clause. We have to make it a main clause because for compound sentence, can you remember? Compound sentence means two main clauses added with conjunctions. We have to add a conjunctions and, but, or, either, or, not only but, also like that. And you have to make two main clauses. That contrasted, this is a subordinate clause. We have to make it a main clause. Try to write the answer yourself. Number 3, though he struggled financially throughout his life. So you see this subordinate clause. Though he struggled financially throughout his life, he was one of the most famous and influential painters in the world. You have to make it simple. As there is one subordinate clause, one main clause, so this is complex sentence. To make it simple, we have to do what? Can you remember? Simple sentence means only one main clause. That means he was one of the most famous and influential painters in the world. This is the main clause. This main clause could remain unchanged. He should not do any work with this main clause. So what we have to do? Though he struggled financially throughout his life, this is the subordinate clause. You have to make this subordinate clause a phrase. Removing the verb, struggled. You have to make a phrase here. As you see, a 19th century French painter, it is a phrase in number 1. You have to make it a clause. Here, you have to change this clause, though he struggled financially throughout his life, into a phrase. Then it will be simple. Try. I'll give you the answer, but try yourself first. Number 4. Monet painted the cathedral at several different times of day. You have to make it passive. It's easy, I think, for you. Do it. Monet painted the cathedral at several different times of day. You have to make it passive. He was one of the most famous painters of the world. You have to make it positive degree. You see, one of the. If there is one of the, what you have to do for positive degree? Can you remember? Try. He was one of the most famous painters of the world. Do it quickly. I'll show you the answers. And check how much you can remember, recall, because these are the things you have done after class 12, I told you. So now you are revising these things. But you have to do it this time very correctly and properly as a student of English department. Now look at the answers. Match your answers with the following. Number 1, Claude Monet, who was a 19th century French painter. You see, as I told you, a 19th century French painter, it's a phrase. We have to make a clause to make it complex. How we have done, you see. Claude Monet, who was is a verb here, now this is a clause, who was a 19th century French painter. So this is subordinate clause, you see. And the main clause is the black one. So main clause is unchanged. That's why now this is a complex sentence. Claude Monet, who was a 19th century French painter, was the most famous artist associated with the movement known as Impressionism. Have you got it? Is your one correct? I think some of you have done the right answer. Okay, now look at number 2. The texture of these brush strokes. You have to make it compound. I told you that clause, that contrasted sharply. This subordinate clause should be turned into a main clause. Look at this answer. The texture of these brush strokes gave the canvases a tactile quality, and we have added and conjunction. It contrasted. It was That contrasted, we have add an and said you have added a subject also. It contrasted sharply with the smooth canvases produced by more traditional artists. So now this is compound. Two main clauses are added with conjunction. Look at number 3. What was the question here? Though he struggled financially throughout his life. To make it simple, we have to change this subordinate clause into a phrase. How we have done, you see, in spite of his struggle financially throughout his life. Now this is no more a clause because there is no verb, you see. In spite of his struggle, this struggle is noun. In spite of his struggle financially throughout his life, he was one of the most famous and influential painters in the world. Number 4, passive answer. You see, the cathedral was painted at several different times of day by Monet. I think you have done correct answer here. The question was, Monet painted the cathedral at several times, different times of the day. So it's past simple tense. To make it passive, what we have done, you see, from past simple tense, we have to use the helping verb of past continuous tense, and the main verb is past participle. That is the thing. The cathedral was painted at several different times of day by Monet. And positive degree, if there is one of the, we have to use very few. Very few painters in the world was as famous as he. Look at the question. What was the question? He was one of the most famous painters of the world. To make it positive, when there is the phrase one of the most, then we have to use very few. Very few painters in the world was as famous as he, this positive degree. So these are the different types of questions that will be given you after reading a comprehension passage in part A in your exam paper. So you should prepare yourself properly following this question pattern. Now, your home task, it's time to take your home task. So what you have to do, I think you can realize by this time to improve your reading skills, to have a good score in this course. Keep on reading more and more English stories, articles, reading comprehension passages, and make some questions after you reading the text, and try to answer those questions yourself. Have you got the point? After you're reading, you try to make some question yourself and try to answer those questions yourself. And pick up some sentences of different types from the text you have read and try to transform them into other types. Have you got it? Transformation. Pick up some sentences of different types, simple, complex, compound, choose from the text that you are reading. And after choosing those sentences, try to transform. If it is simple, try to make it compound or complex. If it is complex, try to make it compound. So this is the technique to improve your reading skills and also to have a good score in this course. I think you have got the lecture properly. And try to follow this lecture. In our next class, I'll try to show you part B, that is also a comprehension passage. So keep in touch with the class, our online class. Don't leave or miss any online class of National University because you are not having regular class at your colleges. So try to be in touch with this online class of National University and develop your reading skills. Don't be detached. Okay? Thank you for attending the class. Again, stay home, stay safe, and pray for all. Have a nice time. Bye-bye. And I hope to see you next class, inshallah. Till then, have a nice time.